Welcome into PC Radio. Good Friday afternoon. It's Friday, Richard. Casual Friday on the Patriotically Correct radio show. We have the Force Matrix Fridays coming up here today, so Joe the Cop will be joining us in the second half. Very disturbing story that we have to talk about with Joe the Cop. You're not going to want to miss that. Also, we're going to have updated details on October 25th. We're going to be in Waldorf, Minnesota at JR's Barn. Richard and I will be there live. We've heard that Jason Lewis could possibly be there. He's running for U.S. Senate. Joy Villa is going to be there. There's going to be a monster truck there crushing cars. It's a kid-friendly event, so there's going to be bounce houses and food and snacks and drinks and all kinds of different stuff. We will be there. The original flyer said 10 o'clock, but I'm seeing updated ones that say 11. Anyway, it goes until 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. If you can get down there, I don't know when it is that you and I are going to be taking this stage and speaking, but I'm bringing my kids down. It's going to be a great event. Look for the details on our Facebook page. Also, speaking of Facebook pages, let's fight back. Okay, because Facebook is censoring, Twitter is censoring. You know how you fight back? You grow that damn thing. So get over to our Facebook page, the Patriotically Correct Radio Facebook page, like that thing, follow that thing, so that you can be part of the Relentless Truth Seekers squad. They want to shut us down, and we're not going to let it happen. We are going to fight back. We have personal stories, by the way, about people that we know who have 2.5 million followers on their business pages. They own companies. They have TV shows. They have radio talk shows, but they are conservative, pro-police commentators, and because they support the police and because they're conservative, they are now unable to post to over 22 different business pages that they have. Shutting down business now. Censorship is now shutting down American small business. The implications of this are absolutely unfathomable. This is civil war. This is what it is. In the cyber world, this censorship is a totalitarian censorship. This is fascism. This is communism. This is socialism. There was a document, a big article that was published by the New York Post, an investigative discovery about a laptop that was left behind by Hunter Biden, depicting photographs of him with a meth bubble in his mouth or a crack pipe or whatever that was, emails being exchanged between him and foreign governments, him and foreign businesses, unlawful activity, quid pro quos all over the place, bribery, using his dad's vice presidential seat as a way to get himself paid over $50,000, some say up to $85,000 a month by an energy company when he had no experience in the field of energy, no experience in the country of Ukraine, but was being paid by Ukrainians. And the New York Post obtains this information, real documents, real emails, and they publish a story about it. They go to Twitter. Twitter shuts it down. Facebook says, we're going to limit the amount of viewership that this thing gets. I don't know how much more obvious it gets, folks. This is actual warfare. The enemy of the people is social media, the greatest human experiment ever in our history. This is war against you. Crazy. The media is the enemy of the people, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore, Richard.
You know, I find it very hard to understand how Hunter Biden can be that stupid. I mean, our kids in this country, they know how to effectively hide their porn or whatever it is they're doing on their phones and computers and laptops to never ever be discovered by parents in some cases. But this guy has all these emails and pictures and all these things on a computer and just leaves them.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. And you called it, Stu. You called it a couple of weeks ago. The first rule of warfare is to break down the communications, and that's exactly what these people are doing.
And I said that Twitter would follow Facebook, and they did. I said that Instagram would be next, and I bet it will. I'm telling you.
Doesn't Facebook own Instagram?
I said that anything that was said that was pro-Trump would be censored, and anything that was anti-Biden would be censored or deleted and get you immediately banned. Not only did it get one of the largest publications, news publications in the entire world, banned from posting on Twitter, but also they shut down the account of the official press representative of the President of the United States. Kayleigh McEnany was locked out of her Twitter account. The White House cannot communicate messages through Twitter to the people of the United States. This is unprecedented. These times, there's a woman that Marge. She I think posted the perfect comment, and I was just looking for it. I found it here. She said, "Vote for Trump or this will be the new communist America. It's already happening. Facebook and Twitter are now deleting anything that's pro-Trump and anything against crooked Biden." I said that would happen, Marge. That's censorship like they have in Russia, Japan, China, and North Korea. The Democrat agenda is to turn America into a communist country, and if you vote for Biden, this is what you'll be voting for. You'll be voting to have your kids, grandchildren, relatives all thrown in jail if they make a comment the leaders don't like. Religion will be punished and churches will be closed. Guns will be confiscated. This is no conspiracy. It is absolutely what will happen. This is no ordinary election. This is the fight for America. She hit the nail right on the head, Marge. We really like your comments on our Facebook page, and we want to invite other people to do this. Facebook is probably coming next, Marge. You know that it's not going to be long before we're not able to talk to you on this platform. Excuse me. It's probably already the case that our content is not being shared with the people that would normally see it under circumstances where we didn't have Democratic Socialists running to campaigning to run the country. These are self-proclaimed, by the way, socialists, Democratic socialists. The people that are pulling the strings here aren't even allowed to be talked about on the Fox News channel anymore. George Soros. You see that even their commentators, when somebody brings up that they believe that George Soros is behind all of this, they immediately shut down the conversation, shut him off, and move on to something different. We're in different times here, ladies and gentlemen. This is a vote for freedom versus a vote for socialism. We didn't even vote for socialism, and we already have it. We have a majority Republican Senate and a Republican at the helm in the Oval Office, and we're already getting this. Can you imagine the chaos, the destruction, the violence, the looting, the burning, the censorship that will take place if Joe Biden wins?
Well, and this might be putting the cart before the horse, bro, but this is all very alarming, but it also makes me think, well, what the hell is going to happen after the next 4 years when Trump can't run again? And who has the testicular fortitude to act in the way that he's acting to save this country?
Well, Donald Trump Jr., Candace Owens. There's a lot of different people that have been thrown on the table. But, listen.
I'd vote for Candace Owens. I think she's amazing.
She's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And watch the things that are going on with the Supreme Court nomination. First of all, they're talking. The fact that we're even having a conversation about packing the court should tell you where we are in America. If I can't win, I'm going to cheat or change the rules so that I can win. And that's what the whole packing the court is all about. Because if you have the majority that are conservative-leaning judges on the court, they feel like they're losing, so they have to pack the court, making it another legislative branch of government to further their socialist agenda, to further silence the American people, to further rule against you, middle-class America, black America, small business-owning America, tax-paying America. Socialism keeps the money at the top, but then just gives you enough to just get by, everybody an equal amount to just get by. This is the definition of ghetto. That's what happens in the ghetto, okay? The people that are trapped in the ghetto by Democratic policies that have been strangled and oppressed by Democrats for decades, they rely on what? A check at the first of every single month. And that's all they have. And they better balance that thing because that's all they're getting. Maybe a little bit of rent help, maybe a little help getting some milk and cheese and eggs. But these people can't leave that ghetto because they're trapped there. They don't have the monetary fortitude to be able to get out of there. And so they're stuck there because of people like Maxine Waters in California, who doesn't even live in her own district, but lives in some $6 million mansion outside of that district and for decades has done nothing for that district. And man, I hope Joe Collins, the Navy veteran, wins over there in California and unseats her. I hope Lacey Johnson takes Ilhan Omar out of her mansion with her cash for ballots and ballot harvesting. Look around at what is going on in this country. Hunter Biden is able to go over to foreign countries like China and Ukraine and Russia and take millions of dollars out But the media won't even question him. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Can you imagine if Hunter's last name was Trump and his father was the president right now? Can you imagine the magnitude of the story? You want to talk about impeachment for having a phone call with a Ukrainian? Imagine what would have happened had Hunter been Trump Jr. or had Eric Trump participated or Jared Kushner participated in activities like what Hunter Biden did.
They'd be trying to hang him from the Washington Monument, for Christ's sake. It's crazy.
So, Marge, you're absolutely right. And here's what I will say. The OpsLens app is out there. Get over there and download the OpsLens app. Go to their Facebook page. Take a look at it. That's OPSLENS. You can go to opslens.com. You can go into the Android marketplace. You can go onto your Apple store and buy it. OpsLens streams live on Apple TV, on Roku. Fire Stick is coming. We're on all of the major networks with the OpsLens network. So go download that app because that's one that they can't censor. And the OpsLens app, Ron over there, the CEO, calls it the Truth Brigade. And I tend to agree with that because here's what happens is we're putting more and more shows on that network, ours included. Rocky Stucci, I know Ray Dietrich is going to be over there, Coffee with Cops, and whatever other shows that Ray Dietrich does. And welcome to the network, Ray. Real good friend. We really love him. We're sorry what you're going through. He's the friend. And, it doesn't just hurt Ray. Ray makes money selling coffee. Ray makes money selling merchandise. And all of the stuff that he sells goes to, a portion of those proceeds go to the Wounded Blue. It's a good cause. And you want to talk about gangster. Ray was tweeting to me last night. They even shut down a nonprofit, a pro-police nonprofit. This is unbelievable. The fact that we have to have this conversation in 2020 leading up to the most pivotal election in the history of our country is absolutely astonishing. And so go download the OpsLens app, become part of the Truth Brigade, and don't forget that because of the fact that Twitter might be shutting us down a little bit or Facebook might be shutting us down a little bit, don't self-censor. Charlie Kirk was talking about that in a video that you sent to me. Charlie Kirk is amazing, by the way. If you haven't had an opportunity to look at that guy, go listen to him. I mean, he's got some really critical ways of thinking. And, what he was saying is they're going to censor you. This has been going on with big tech and meddling in the elections. This is election interference at its finest. What Twitter's doing, trying to shield Joe Biden and Hunter Biden from these facts coming out because they don't want to actually be having these conversations. Did you see George Stephanopoulos asking Joe Biden about Hunter over in Ukraine last night? I didn't catch that part.
Nope.
The difference between the town hall with Trump and the town hall with Biden was astounding. If you don't believe me, they're all over the internet. Go watch them. And if you're a liberal Democrat and you're thinking with a closed mind and you're saying, oh, no, the president deserves everything that he has. She's rude, yeah, but he's rude too. Listen, this is a war on you. Okay, this is the infiltration of this negative. If you don't believe me, go to Google and type in something that you legitimately want to find about Donald Trump. Don't say something like Trump's an idiot. I mean, Google something like Trump ad for something or other, or Trump's position on this or that. 100% of the results that you're going to get are going to be negative about Trump and positive about Biden. You didn't even Google anything about Biden, and you're going to get positive Biden results when you're looking for a positive Trump, and you're going to get negative Trump results. Google is in on it. Go ahead.
Look at what the perfect one to Google is. What has Trump done for Black America? Mm-hmm. It's nuts the difference you'll get between Google and search engines like Bing.
Let's take a listen to Joe Biden from last night here. Hold on, let me see if I can get it over here.
The Constitution implies that the way the people have a right to determine who's going to be on the court is how they vote for their senators and their president. We seek the advice and consent of the Senate and
the president's president for all 4 years, isn't he?
No, he is. But once an election begins, by implication, It is inconsistent with the constitutional principles, in my view. You get disagreement among scholars on this. But I believe it's inconsistent when millions of people already voted to put someone on the court. I think it should have been held until this election is over. See what the makeup of the Senate is going to be.
Okay, but here's the problem, though, Richard, is that Joe Biden's interpretation of the Constitution is actually kind of irrelevant because the Constitution says what it says, and that is the president for 4 years, and that the president shall nominate a judge or an attorney or somebody. He shall nominate somebody to fill a vacated Supreme Court justice seat. And the fact of the matter is, you know, we posted on our Facebook page yesterday a Nebraska senator, Sassy, giving basically a civics lesson that you would give to 8th graders, because I believe that he's an 8th grade civics teacher. And the point is that we're all missing this. And the fact that politics even have to be discussed on the Supreme Court is kind of scary. Think about that. Think about the way that Amy Klobuchar or Crazy Maisie from Hawaii calling Amy Coney Barrett a rapist, or Cory Booker calling her a racist. Okay? Think about that. Amy Coney Barrett's history as a judicial authority has been 100% constitutional, and she is a scholar in the Constitution. She made Amy Klobuchar look like a complete dwarf and a constitutional idiot by the way that she described super precedent and different things like that. And so justices on the Supreme Court, whether they tend to in their personal life lean conservative or tend to be liberal, the court wasn't designed to be like that. The court was designed to be where rulings are made, cases are heard, rulings are made based on the Constitution of the United States. That is our founding document. And the fact that Joe Biden is talking about what his interpretation of it, or whether or not millions of people have already voted, is actually completely irrelevant, because the reason why Donald Trump was elected, one of the main reasons that he was elected, is because we knew that there was going to be vacancies at the Supreme Court, and we know that it's the president's job to nominate and the Senate's job to confirm. Well, we elected, the people did speak. So when you're saying the people should have an opportunity to speak, Joe, they already did.
President wins this election, he should be able to.
But how about that question of expanding the court? Here's what you said exactly 1 year ago tonight at a Democratic debate. You said, I would not get into court packing. I would not pack the court. That's not what you're saying now. Is the nomination of Judge Barrett reason enough to rethink your position?
What is the nomination of what I wanted to do, George? You know, if I had answered the question directly, then all the focus would be on what's Biden going to do if he wins.
Okay, and isn't that supposed to be what the focus is on? So when you're campaigning for something, Richard, don't you go door to door or buy advertising or send out flyers that tell the American people or the people in your constituency what it is that you're going to do if you win the election? Isn't that the whole premise of a campaign?
Well, yeah, and door knocking, I think, is super important, because that's the only time your constituents will have a face-to-face, 2 minutes, if you will, even to just say hi and ask you one question or anything like that. So, yes, it's super important.
And not only is it equally important for the constituent to be able to hear you personally, but more importantly, what these politicians seem to forget is that gives the politician the opportunity to hear me.
Right.
This is my country. Air Force Two, that's my plane. Mm-hmm. That house up there at Pennsylvania Avenue, that's my house.
Yes, it is.
Maxine Waters' $6 million mansion was bought with California taxpayer dollars, which includes me because I lived there while she was there. I lived in Los Angeles. I paid taxes there. That's my house. Summit Avenue, Timmy the Tyrant, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, that's my house. And I don't apologize for living in it for a brief period of time.
Attaboy.
Let's go back to the president of the former vice president.
Is it appropriate what is going on now? And it should stay. This is the thing that the president loves to do, always take our eye off the ball. What's at stake? One of the things Pete has suggested is, and there's a number of constitutional
But you're taking your eye off the ball. Again, dodging the question on whether or not he's going to pack the Supreme Court. Talking about what the president is not doing. Talking about what the president is doing. And did you see the mood there? Did you see how Stephanopoulos was just kind of sitting back? And then he said something about, oh, but you said a month ago. That was all pre-scripted. That was pre-planned. Biden knew that Stephanopoulos was going to say that. And now look at the difference in the climate between that and this.
You were asked point blank to denounce white supremacy.
I denounce white supremacy, okay?
You did 2 days later.
I've denounced white supremacy for years, but you always do it. You always start off with a question. You didn't ask Joe Biden whether or not he denounces Antifa.
Let me ask you about QAnon. It is this theory that,
what is that?
Democrats are a satanic pedophile ring and that you are the savior of that. Now, can you just once and for all state that that is completely not true and that disavow QAnon in its entirety?
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that. I know nothing about it. I do know they are very much against pedophilia. They fight it very hard, but I know nothing about it.
They believe it is a satanic cult run by the deep state.
Study the subject. I'll tell you what I do know about. I know about Antifa, and I know about the radical left, and I know how violent they are and how vicious they are.
Do you have any remaining symptoms from COVID?
Nothing whatsoever. I'm great. I feel good.
In particular, did you have pneumonia?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel strong. I had a little bit of a temperature. The doctors at the White House are fantastic, as you can imagine.
I just want to skip ahead here a little bit. Listen to this.
Everybody is working hard to get this thing out of our country, get it out of the world. Look at what's going on in Europe. Massive spikes. They've done a very good job, but now you take a look today at the UK, you take a look at Spain and France and Italy. There's tremendous spikes.
But our death rate is worse than, well, not Spain, but those other countries.
I have things right here that will tell you exactly the opposite.
Me too.
So the UK is up 2,500%, because I knew you'd be doing this. I know you very well. The UK is up 2,500%. The EU is up 722%. And the United States is down 21%.
But we have, our deaths per capita is among the highest among industrialists.
Excess mortality, we're a winner.
Of taxes. As you know, the New York Times has obtained, it says, years of your tax returns, among other things.
Yeah, Twitter didn't
that
censor that, by the way.
Approximately $421 million that you have personally guaranteed and that will come due in the next 4 years. The question is, on behalf of voters, who do you owe $421 million to?
First of all, let me answer. What they did is illegal, number one. Also, the numbers are all wrong with the numbers they released. And just so you understand, when you have a lot of real estate, I have real estate, you know a lot of it, okay? Right down the road, Doral, big stuff, great stuff. When I decided to run, I'm very under-levered, fortunately, but I'm very under-levered. I have a very, very small percentage of debt compared. In fact, some of it I did as favors to institutions.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more
what's
here.
happening to San Francisco.
Well, do I hear you right? It sounds like you're saying $400 million isn't that much.
One of the biggest office buildings.
But are you confirming that, yes, you do owe some $400 million?
What I'm saying is that it's a tiny percentage of my net worth.
Unbelievable. That is from Sky News, and just kind of some highlights there of what was going on. But you see the difference in the environment, the whole atmosphere between the town hall that happened for Joe Biden and the all-out assault that happened on President Trump. Savannah Guthrie assaulted him, interrupted him, insulted him, tried to ask the got me questions. And you raised a really good point last night, Richard. You said, you have an hour or whatever amount of time it is with the President of the United States. America is watching. America is listening. America has real questions. And you want to talk to him about QAnon? And yes, by the way, pedophilia is bad, Savannah. Just so you know. And so I don't know anything about QAnon really either. But if they stand against pedophilia, I can get with that.
Yep, absolutely. And it's just a gross waste of everybody's time, the president's time, her time, our time for, the American people that sat to watch this bullshit go down. It's gross, man. And It's disappointing.
Yeah.
It's kindergarten bullshit.
By the way, wanted to make another announcement. We are also on Clout Hub. We have a channel over there on Clout Hub where you will also never be censored. So the OpsLens app, Clout Hub, we're on channel 200 there. We had the choice of what channel we wanted. I thought 200 was a nice round, even number. I don't even think they go up to the 200s yet, but they specially made a channel for the Patriotically Correct radio show. I don't blame them. Everybody wants this thing on their channel. So get over to Clout Hub, get over to OpsLens, download both of those things. We have Joe the Cop coming up in the second half. You're going to want to stick around for this because you're not going to believe the story that we have. More PC Radio straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. My name is Stu. That's Rich over there. Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard for Adjust Today Chiropractic. Now, I want you to take a look at this. This is the website for Adjust Today Chiropractic, which obviously is at adjusttodaychiropractic.com. Dr. Dustin Ducart says you're in good hands. He believes everyone has a chance to experience the benefits of chiropractic care. He'd love to find out how to skillfully take care of you and your spine, and that can be done even on Saturdays. He makes himself available on Saturdays. And Richard, you know how important it is to be properly aligned.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's no secret that proper alignment is good for you, not only in just an everyday health aspect, but also, I mean, it can help things that you don't even know that it helps. Now, Dr. Dustin Ducart does specialize in like athletic pain and things like that, but also, I mean, chiropractic care can help with allergies, migraines, all kinds of stuff. Visit him today, adjusttodaychiropractic.com, adjusttodaychiropractic.com. That's adjusttodaychiropractic.com.
I don't think that there's a lot of things that would have happened in my life if my last name wasn't Biden.
Like your investment firm striking $1 billion deal with a Chinese-owned bank 10 days after you and Joe visit, and collecting over $80,000 a month from a Ukrainian energy company after your father was named point man on Ukraine.
It is impossible for me to be on any of the boards that I just mentioned without saying that I'm the son of the Vice President of the United States.
The question is not why Hunter Biden used his name to get these gigs. It's why Joe Biden let him do it.
Hey, it's Stu Peters with the Patriotically Correct radio show, here to talk to you more about Johnson Jewelers. I talk about them a lot. I talk about them because they're paying us to, but also because we have personal experience, or at least I do, with Johnson Jewelers. And if you have not had personal experience with Johnson Jewelers, it's because maybe that you were unaware, but now you are aware. And whether you're located near or around Woodbury, Minnesota is irrelevant, because Johnson Jewelers can provide service to you no matter where you are, globally, internationally, as well as around the world at johnsonjewelers.com. Maybe you have that old pendant or crest or stone that you want turned into a custom piece of jewelry. Maybe you have some jewelry that needs to be restored, or maybe you want something completely new made for you. You have something in mind? Just a quick visit to the website, a couple of phone calls, an email exchanged here and there, and you have the personal custom piece of jewelry meant for you. Visit them online right now, johnsonjewelers.com, johnsonjewelers.com. That's johnsonjewelers.com.
Prop 25 ends our right to put up bail for anyone, even though they may have been racially profiled. Prop 25 replaces bail with computer algorithms. Academic studies show that these algorithms are biased. Some call them black boxes. And Prop 25's new bureaucracy delays justice for innocent people stuck in jail. The NAACP asks you to vote no on Proposition 25.
Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard for Law Dog Coffee Company. Welcome to Law Dog Coffee Company. Some heroes wear capes, ours wear a badge. Every single purchase you make goes to support law enforcement. So if you love the cops, if you support law enforcement, if you don't agree with defunding the police, if you want to make sure that they have good equipment, if you want to take care of law enforcement families, this is the only coffee that you want to drink. And not only that, their purpose is great, but the coffee is even better. You can sign up online very easily for freshly roasted specialty coffee to your door. You can choose weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly deliveries. Gifts and apparel also available. Law Dog Coffee Company, located at lawdogcoffee.com, lawdogcoffee.com. That's lawdogcoffee.com. Use the promo code PCRadio for 10% off every purchase. Welcome back to the second half here of PC Radio. My name is Stu Peters. That's Richard Leonard. Hopefully, during the break, you went over and downloaded that OpsLens app and also checked out Clout Hub. Get yourself an account on Parler. All of the places that are not going to censor you. It's just absolutely unbelievable, the things that we're going through here. It's a crock of shit, Richard.
Watch your mouth.
Oh, knock it off, intern boy. All right, now we've got new watch your mouth stuff going on here. We have Joe the Cop, and I don't want to take a whole bunch of time here, but something unprecedented again happening across our country. The rules are being changed for criminals, favoring the criminals over the victims, and officially labeling, like Joe the Cop has said in the past, officially labeling victims as a suspect. That didn't happen here, but what happened here in Aurora, California is going to blow your mind. Check this out.
Some Aurora residents are surprised how a 4-hour-long armed standoff ended in their neighborhood. It ended with dozens of Aurora police officers packing and walking away, leaving a wanted man in one home. CBS 4 investigator Brian Moss has been reporting on the increasing use of de-escalation tactics. It's leaving some residents uneasy and confused.
In Aurora's Conservatory neighborhood, this was unusual.
Yes, they did have their guns pulled out. They had an armored truck that was pulled up onto the grass.
Aurora's SWAT team surrounded the home of Eric Burns for hours. According to internal police documents, Burns had a valid misdemeanor no-bond domestic violence warrant out of Denver.
They had the guy in the top with his gun pointing at the house, and there were police hiding behind the cars with their weapons pulled as well.
Sounds kind of scary to me.
It was very scary.
The standoff and negotiations dragged on through the afternoon until Burns released a 6-year-old girl. But when Burns, who police believed was armed, refused to come out, police wrote, "Decision made to vacate."
Pretty shocked. We thought for sure that they would have arrested someone.
And it turns out Burns was also wanted for suspected felony kidnapping in Blackhawk, but Aurora police say they didn't know about that warrant at the time.
Pretty surprising that after that kind of response and that kind of action that there wasn't an arrest made.
Craig Miller watched from across the street. He's surprised police just left, but understands.
Elijah McClain, you've got all these situations where force has ended deadly, and I don't want to see that.
And that's more or less how Aurora police explained their actions. The department said members of our community and across the nation have made it very clear that they want their police department to respond differently to some incidents, particularly when there is a possibility of using serious force.
I'm going to stop it right there because this, particularly in the case, actually what they mean to say is when there's a black suspect involved. Joe the Cop is here. He is a PC radio contributor. He is a 23-year police veteran and currently working cop in America. We protect his anonymity because he doesn't have the First Amendment right to speak and opine on things like this. But Joe, take us through this. Why is this happening not only in Aurora but across America?
Well, because you have chiefs like the Aurora Police Department Chief, Vanessa Wilson, practically conducting public referendums on when they could use force, okay? Basically asking the public, is it okay if we go in and arrest this man who has barricaded himself, this felon, this violent thug, this armed and violent thug, ask the public if you can go and arrest this man for the crimes he's committed that day. This barricaded man holding his kids hostage. This is what you have. We shouldn't be surprised by this at all. Let's look at the history of the Aurora Police Department, Stu. Just this past summer, Vanessa Wilson allowed these thugs, these anti-police George Floyd thugs, to chain lock the doors to the Aurora Police Department while officers were inside. And basically what they were doing was discussing burning the station down. Instead of responding with the justified use of deadly force, Vanessa Wilson and her command staff ordered the officers to conduct negotiations with these thugs for 7 hours. Mm-hmm. 7 hours.
Unbelievable.
Then they made a big production of saying we didn't use force against them until they started throwing rocks at us. This is officially the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This should not be happening. We should have been reading reports of dead and injured criminals, not officers trapped in a station. They were discussing burning the station down. What if these officers just said, hey, you know what? we're removing you, Chief, and we are going to go in and fix this problem. What are you going to do? You're going to write them up for stopping an arson?
Yeah. Going back to the Aurora deal here, you heard the bystander or the neighbor, the guy that was being interviewed, and he was saying something about how, this is how we want it to be. We don't want to see the use of force out here and stuff like that. Well, do you think his opinion would be different if it was his kid that was in there being held hostage by somebody? Do you think at that point he wouldn't really care if there was a criminal that ended up having force used against him or possibly even killed by the police when it was his kids that were in danger? Do you think the opinions might change when this actually strikes home and gets close to somebody closer than they actually think?
Well, not only that, but let's also remember that this lady who said, "Oh my God, it was so scary. They had their guns out." Well, no shit, they had their guns out.
Watch your mouth.
What's scary is that in your neighborhood, the cops are walking away from a potentially armed person who's wanted for kidnapping, who is holding a 6-year-old child hostage, and they just pack up their shit and they drive away. That is scary.
Yeah.
That's what? What do you mean it's scary that they had their guns out? Unbelievable.
Okay. So to answer your question with that, Stu, yeah, I'm sure his opinion would be different under those circumstances.
Absolutely.
If it was literally at his door. But here's a better question, I think, or basically an equally important question. Why does his opinion matter? The citizens of Aurora, Colorado, do not get to rewrite the Colorado Penal Code. I've always been taught that when a suspect has a warrant for his arrest, and as this man did, he had a felony warrant for his arrest. I believe it was kidnapping. They didn't know it at the time, but I was always taught that when a person has a warrant for their arrest, it's not even an option. You have to make the arrest. Doesn't matter if it's a misdemeanor or felony arrest warrant. Take the warrant out of it. This Eric Burns had barricaded himself in the house with guns and basically held his kids hostage until they could talk him into releasing the kids. So then you turn around and let him go? You let him, and now you're surprised you can't find him? He's gone. He's in the wind. You're surprised?
Right.
Again, This is what's going to happen when you continue to hire social experiments for chiefs. And as you can see, Stu, this is all cyclical.
Well, you see that Portland. You see that Portland is still burning. Portland is still on fire. There's still autonomous zones and lawless areas set up in Portland, but you don't read about it in the news anymore. You don't hear about it on the nightly news. You don't see it in the media at all. You don't see it even on social media. In the city of Minneapolis, we have an autonomous zone that is set up there. They've been talking about getting rid of this thing for I don't know how long now. They haven't gotten rid of it. It's still down there. People are getting shot at in broad daylight. The police can't even go in there because they quote unquote escalate the situation. But like you've opined in the past, and you've spoken on this before, yeah, police do escalate situations. They're there to enforce the law. These lawless communities and these criminals, because of the color of their skin, are getting a pass. That is a fact. Because this guy is a black guy, that is the only reason why they walked away from this. If this guy would have been a white guy, they'd have gone in there and they would have shot him, and guess what? No buildings would have burned down in his name.
Right, and him releasing the kid is the bell, right? The round is starting, and the round ain't over until you're in handcuffs, or I guess dead if he's going to put up a fight and shoot at the police. Nuts.
I do not have a choice as a police officer when it's a domestic violence situation. There is no option of walking away. The arrest has to be made. This has been drummed into my head since the days of the academy. You have discretion as a police officer in certain situations. You don't have it in a domestic violence situation in most cases, and you don't have it when the person has a warrant for arrest. This was, for all intents and purposes, what we would term unlawful restraint, which is a felony. So when this was done, and the police chose to leave because, well, they were ordered to do so, and I only blame the command staff for this. But quite honestly, what would have happened, Stu and Rich, if one of the officers at the scene just said, "You know what, we're going in"? What are you going to do? You gonna stop them from arresting a felon? You're gonna write them up for arresting a felon?
How about this as a question? What would have happened if the media would have covered this thing appropriately? For the guy that was saying, this is great, this is the way that we want it to be, we don't want to see more dead black people or whatever it was that he said. And then the lady, oh my God, it was so scary with their guns out and blah, blah, blah. For those people, how many people are on the opposite side of the spectrum saying, excuse me, there was a kid in there being held hostage, there was a guy in there barricading, and like you said, put the warrant aside, there's a domestic violence situation happening here, this is dangerous for the neighbors, this is dangerous for kids. There's egg on the face of this Aurora department. And if the news would cover this fairly, the unprecedented amount, an exponential amount of people that would have spoken out against these actions and against this stand down order would no doubt have outweighed those two little freaks that we just aired here by far in huge numbers. I know that it's my opinion that if I got a guy down the street that's holding some kids hostage, if the cops aren't going to go in there, Joe, I might.
Stu, to answer that, I'm not sure if the media coverage would have been fair, because I think what you're seeing there with maybe those two people is probably indicative of the citizens of Aurora. Because what have I always said about this? The chief is a reflection of the mayor and the city government.
But not necessarily a reflection of the people. I mean, I know this. I'm not happy with the chief of police in my town. I think he's a rollover. I think he's a pussy. And because of his lack of authority or his lack of enforcement action, criminal thugs are getting away with anything that they want to. We were just sitting the other day doing surveillance. We had a police chase coming by us. The chase got called. This guy almost hit me. He's doing 120 miles an hour. It's the middle of broad daylight. It's afternoon. They stopped the chase because the driver's black. I'm just telling you, they know that if they stop this, there's going to be collateral damage in police chases. You have to end a chase. It's like a war. You don't end a war. You win a war or you lose a war. It's the same thing that's going on here domestically. You just don't end, violence in the streets. You have to deal with it. You have to confront it. You have to end violence with superior violence. Where did that theory go?
Well, no, it's a theory I've long held. Violence of action, violence met with superior violence. But I just want to backtrack a little here. You said that you do not think that maybe most people would agree that that was the appropriate way of doing things. But here's my response to that. If Vanessa Wilson and if this city council and the mayor, if they are not indicative of the way that the citizens of Aurora think, how did they get elected in the first place? Yeah, you understand it all starts with the citizenry. The citizenry, they elect direct reflections of themselves.
Yeah. Well, I can't get with that 100% because, people get into office and then they do things that are different from what they ran on. If this city council ward member came by my place and said, hey, if I get elected, I'm going to vote to defund the police. If I get elected, I'm going to stop going in after guys that are holding kids hostage. If I get in, I'm going to reinvent the wheel when it comes to police work, and I'm going to take all the authority away from the police department, and I'm going to pander to minority members of the community. Then they wouldn't ever have been elected. They just wouldn't have. The fact is,
I think they would. I think that they would have, Stu. I think that this is exactly the direct reflection of certain constituents. Now, if you go to say maybe a couple states over to Utah, okay, in those red areas, total different. No, they don't want people that are going to pander to criminals, white or black. They don't want that. So they don't elect people. They don't elect people to do that. They elect people who are direct reflections of themselves. And again, the chiefs are usually direct reflections of the mayor and the city government. Yeah. This is why you have what you have. You have a social experiment for a chief because look at the city government. But where does it all start from? It starts from the citizenry. Now, if the citizenry, let's just say you're correct. If the citizenry does not agree with this, then why aren't they storming the city council chambers at the next meeting and demanding action? It really shouldn't even matter whether the citizens want it or not. At the end of the day, the law says the police have to go in and do this. The law says the police are legally required and authorized to go in and do this. I do not need the approval of the citizenry where I work to make an arrest. Until they change state law, I'll operate business as usual, and that's the way the police should. Vanessa Wilson is a menace. He's actually worse than Art Acevedo in this regard, because I don't even believe Art Acevedo would order his guys out of there on something like that. The Houston police chief. He would have said, go in and get him. Then he would have given a self-congratulatory press conference afterwards, but the arrest would have been made. This is unconscionable. This is unethical. This is unprofessional. The malfeasance borders on criminal, Stu. It really does. And unfortunately, they can get away with this without any sort of legal action being taken against them, because the police, as we've discussed before, the courts have ruled a long time ago, they have no legal duty to protect people. This is why this is able to happen.
What's going to happen when this guy who's now in the wind that they can't find decides he wants to come back and deal with the baby mama, right? And now because the cops walked away and let him flee and now can't find him, and somebody else gets hurt, I would say, and I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but I would say that whole thing is on the back of the police chief, right? It's your fault that this woman gets assaulted, hurt, or worse because you let him go.
It certainly is. Yeah, it certainly is. But like I said, can she be held liable for it? I don't think she can. Warren versus D.C. said in 1981, the D.C. Court of Appeals said in 1981, the police are not legally required to protect anybody. So say he comes back and then he harms somebody else, and then they turn around and want to sue the police department, the Aurora Police Department, in particular Vanessa Wilson. I think they're going to have problems getting that through because of these rulings protecting these inept and cowardly chiefs like Wilson. They give the protection doing this. Here's what I think is going to happen, Rich. I'll take your question a step further. He comes back, he's there. Okay, the police go. Well, here's what the command staff can say. Well, gee, guys, we don't want to make this any worse. Let's not escalate this into something where we might have to use force against a felon. Let's just back off, and when he runs, we'll get a warrant for him. And then you know what? When he runs again, well, we won't chase him because we don't want to make matters worse. We'll get a warrant for him again. And, eventually maybe we'll catch him when he's sleeping. This is the mentality of these command staffs, Rich. It's a diseased, cowardly thought process. Like I said, this is malfeasance that basically borders on the criminal. Somebody should have basically arrested Vanessa Wilson at the scene for obstruction or whatever Colorado's equivalent is. The charge wouldn't go anywhere, but that would be one hell of a message, don't you think? If basically the officer says, you know what, we're not going to tolerate this. This is our job. You don't get to rewrite the law. You can't tell me I can't go arrest a felon.
I know that you weren't there, Joe, but let's just ask your opinion. Yeah. Do you think that this had anything to do with the fact that the suspect was black?
100%, because if you look at the other instances, which the Aurora Police Department has proudly doled out in front of the public of when they backed off of other arrests, the other suspects have been black also. They've made a public spectacle of saying we've not arrested this person. And we know where this comes from. It comes from the Elijah McCain case. That's exactly where this comes from. But Elijah McCain or not, again, look at this chief. She doesn't look like a cop. She doesn't look professional at all. She doesn't look like anybody that belongs in a police uniform. She masquerades as a police officer. Every day is Halloween for her.
Yeah.
But look what she's putting her guys through. I know officers in Colorado, and they said that used to be a hardcore police department. They were full throttle. And again, over time, liberals have infested that city government. And this is, again, what you have.
You see the same thing in Minneapolis. Richard and I were directly involved with a situation here a couple of years ago on the south side of Minneapolis, not too far, actually, away from Ground Zero of where George Floyd died of an overdose at the hospital 30 minutes after he got there, after police officers tried to render aid to him. But I will tell you that we had a guy that was locked in a house, and we had information that if this particular car was going to be there, that he was there. His name was Chris. I'll never forget it. Christopher Berg was his name. Actually, you can look him up. Yep. And so we we had information that he was going to be there if this particular car was there. So we drove by the front, and another car drove through the alley, and guess what? The car is there. So we kind of set up a little mini perimeter. Well, we had a friend that was working with another agency, and we said, hey, I don't know if you can get some squads over here or not, but this guy, we have information that he's got long guns, that he's got all kinds of rounds, that he's going to shoot it out with the police. There's 2 of us here. We think that there's multiple people in this house. We've seen 2 people go in since we've arrived. Is there any way that we can get some support? Yeah, absolutely. I'll be right over. So he comes over, and he and another officer come over, and we decide that we're going to go up and knock. So we go up and we knock, and there's this little mini standoff. Okay, well, as we start giving commands and things like that, all of a sudden one guy comes out, and we ask him, who's inside of there? And he names 2 people, and one of them is Christopher Berg. Okay, are those the only 2 people left in the house? Yes. So then we start calling by name the other party out. The other party finally, after about 15 or 20 minutes, comes out, and he peacefully surrenders. We pull him aside, and we say, hey, who's left in the house? Just one person. Okay, what's his name? I don't know. His name is Chris something or other. Okay, so now we know with absolute certainty by 2 different accounts of people that were absolutely in the house, firsthand accounts, that there's only one person left in there. It's a person with 6 or 7 felony warrants for violence. Okay, we're not talking about a misdemeanor warrant here. We're talking 6 or 7 felony warrants for violence. We're talking guns, gang activity, high-level distribution of controlled substances, all of these different assault, high-level felony assaults. I think they were second-degree assault with firearms. And we know that that's the only person left in here. He's refusing to come out. Well, our good friend, who is a seasoned officer, who was on a task force working for a federal agency at the time, said, listen, I think this is a SWAT call-out type of deal. More squads are starting to arrive into the area and everything else. Let's call SWAT. They'll go in there and they'll get this guy, and we'll just end this thing over. Minneapolis SWAT comes down, and we've got a perimeter set up. It was hotter than the blazes out there that day. I mean, there was squad cars coming down with just coolers full of Gatorade in the trunk for those people that were on the perimeter. And this thing, the Minneapolis Police Department was there for, how long were they there, the SWAT team, Richard? I'm blanking here.
8 hours?
8 to
9
10
hours?
Yeah, 8 to 10 hours, something like that. Outside with the Bearcat, the armored vehicles, the MRAPs, giving commands to this guy. And eventually from the command center, from the chief, who at the time was Janae Harteau, comes the order, the stand down order. Break down the perimeter, go ahead and get out of there. We're not going to escalate a static situation. Well, excuse me, this is not a static situation. So let me just make this long story short. I'll wrap it up here real quick so that you can opine on this. But I told our friend, I said, listen, these guys can leave if they want to, but we have a job to do. We're going in there to get this guy. I mean, we know the risks of our job. We assume those risks when we take this job. This guy's wanted. He's a violent person. He's got 7 felony warrants. He's been on the lam for almost a year now. If we don't take the opportunity to grab this guy, he's going to be gone, and he's got a track record for hurting people. I mean, he's going to hurt people. This is what our job is. Our job is to stop this person from hurting anybody else and hold him accountable for those who he has already hurt. And then specifically, Richard and I, our job is to protect the liability of the bail bond company for which he chose to get involved and run on their $100,000 or whatever it is. So our friend says, well, hold on, before you guys just go in there with your team, let me see if these other guys want to come down. So some guys from another agency, a federal agency, come down, and we hold a perimeter. And we get a hold of the Hennepin County SWAT team, and they do their threat assessment, and they say, well, no, we're not going to go in there and get this guy. And so then they get a hold of the FBI, the FBI SWAT tactical entry team. They say, well, yeah, we're going to do our threat assessment. Okay, well, if you guys can hold the perimeter throughout the night, we can be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, but we're a little bit short on resources. We're a little light on equipment and things like. These guys showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning, Joe, like it was a scene from Moulin Rouge. I don't know. I mean, these guys, they had how many cargo vans full of operators, negotiators, computers. They had armored vehicles. They had guys showing up in their personal cars. They had to have 40 personnel there of FBI agents, and they got a Minneapolis canine guy, Blade. He decided that he would, MPD gave their graces for the dog to help the FBI SWAT team. And what took 8 to 10 hours for Minneapolis SWAT to just walk away from took the FBI about 20 seconds. They went in there and this thing was over with. I got a call from Bob Kroll the following day, who was absolutely pissed because here you go, more egg on the face of the Minneapolis Police Department. And what my final thought and what made me think about this, Joe, is that you said some cops that are in Colorado that say the Aurora Police Department used to be a real squared away, proactive, no bullshit kind of police department. That is how Minneapolis was. I mean, and when you compared the two cities, the twin cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, the place where, I'm not discrediting St. Paul here for being a rough and tough police department back in the day, but I'm saying Minneapolis was always the department that was kind of known as you don't screw around over there. And we're seeing this go away in these cities where these are liberally, democratically controlled strongholds where these elected representatives do not have in best mind their constituents, particularly the black communities, but then in reverse psychology, they pander to the black people saying, we're doing this for you. But no, you're actually hurting, and those people are hurting the worst out of anybody in the community. Joe, to that you say what?
Well, you said that Jenny Harto is the one who gave the order to back off, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yep.
that doesn't surprise me at all. Let's look at Jenny Harto. Am I saying her name right?
It works. Janae Harto, whatever.
Janae Harto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Janae Harto. What I remember of her was her little rendition with the inner city kids with the hands up, don't shoot little play that she did with them. And what I also remember from her is that she could never go a paragraph or an interview without telling everyone what her sexual orientation was.
Yeah,
like
right.
anyone really cares.
Yep.
So this tells me all I need to know about her, another social experiment for a chief. As you said, the FBI came in there and cleared it up in basically record time. And as you know, is what I've seen in dealings with the FBI, they don't really care about politics or what local influences are. They just go right in and do their thing.
Yeah.
This is going to become a trend. The Aurora Police Department is proud of themselves. Well, let me say the command staff. The command staff is proud of themselves for doing this. And what we've seen in these cases, okay, 10 years ago, nobody would ever think to attack a police station and set it on fire. That was an easy way to commit suicide. But since Minneapolis Police Department did it, since the Portland Police Department did it, and the Seattle Police Department did it, and the Aurora Police Department also did it, it's catching across the country. I would like to sit here and tell you that these chiefs are leaders for the most part, but unfortunately, recent history of law enforcement says the exact opposite.
Right.
Unfortunately, many chiefs are like lemmings. When one does something stupid, the rest.
Did we lose him?
Uh-oh.
Joe, are you there? I guess we lost him. Joe the Cop, a 23-year police veteran, currently working cop in America, and a PC radio contributor. We're almost out of time anyways, Richard. Unbelievable. Listen, this is more to come. A vote for Joe Biden is a vote for this kind of thing. I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose your ability to speak without the threat of arrest or prosecution. The bad guys are going to be labeled as victims, while the victims are labeled as suspects and jailed. Your kid's future will never be the same. God bless America. Richard, your final words.
My final words are, don't be surprised when you see the cops walking away. Everybody's kind of asking for it. Well, not everybody, but squeaky wheel gets the grease, man.
My final words are about censorship, and I'm going to echo what Charlie Kirk said, and we didn't have time to go to him today. The censorship is going to happen. It's going to happen with big tech. It's going to happen with Facebook. It's going to happen with Twitter. It's going to happen in the mainstream media. We're seeing it already. The war is on. The enemy of the people. They're against you. Don't self-censor. So when you feel like, I don't want to wear my Donald Trump shirt today because I'm afraid of what might happen, you wear that damn shirt. And you say until the very last minute exactly what it is that you believe in. And you stand up and you roll your shoulders back and you stand proud. Until tomorrow, PC Radio, my name is Stu. Good night.